About 30 seconds now from launch. There was a sensor issue. It seems they're working through that. The countdown continues. Looks like this is going to go. We're going to turn it over to NASA. Enjoy.
Okay, minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine full power. And liftoff. Go Falcon, go Dragon, go Crew 7.
Endurance ascends, an international crew destined for the International Space Station.
Stage 1
That's
propulsion is
1.7
nominal.
million. Good calls from the propulsion officers here. Propulsion's nominal. 1.7 million pounds of thrust on Falcon 9, taking Crew 7 to the International Space Station, now traveling almost 300 miles per hour.
Nominal power and telemetry.
We are just about T plus 45 seconds into the 7th rotational crew mission on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and right now the vehicle is throttling down to help us pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. There's the call out that Crew 7 is now moving faster than the speed of sound.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Confirmation we have moved through max Q and are throttling back up.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
Heard that call from Jasmine on Crew 7, as well as confirmation from the ground. The call out for 1 Bravo means we are in the second and final abort mode for the first stage, continuing to get good performance. We've got engine chill on the second stage MVAC engine. We will then be looking for MECO, or main engine cutoff, where the 9 engines on the first stage will cut off ahead of the first and second stages separating. Then the single Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will ignite. We are now coming up on 2 minutes into the flight, the spacecraft traveling over 2,000 miles per hour.
Really incredible nighttime views of Falcon 9 and Crew 7 on your screen right now. So as Leah just mentioned, we are keeping an eye on a couple of critical flight milestones coming up back to back here.
Stage 1 throttle
Those
down.
are going to be MECO, so main engine cutoff now that we're throttling down stage 1, followed by stage separation and second stage ignition.
Main engine cutoff. Stage separation confirmed. Copy, 2 Alpha. MVAC ignition.
So there you heard and saw MECO, stage sep, and hopefully you heard Jasmine call out for the 2 Alpha abort mode just before second stage ignition.
And of course, this is the second stage, powering Dragon on its flight, now traveling almost 4,000 miles per hour. Over 3 minutes since launch, the second stage will continue to power the spacecraft. And our first look at the crew inside. We'll be standing by for SECO. That's the next major milestone for this second stage engine. That comes shortly before 9 minutes into the flight, so we've still got some time on this engine.
So right now, while Crew 7 makes its way to orbit, our first stage booster is making its way back to land. So you may hear the call-outs here on the net shortly that we are in the middle of our boost back burn. Right now, stage 1 is coasting.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Good call-outs there that Dragon is on the right track. And confirmation from Commander Jasmine Mogbelli.
Continuing to see good performance on this lone Merlin vacuum engine on the stage. Also, as we've heard, nominal trajectory. That's the guidance, navigation, and control officer here at SpaceX stating that we are on the correct path. Dragon's pointed in the right direction. The second stage continues firing until, like we mentioned, second stage engine cutoff at about 8 minutes and 50 seconds into the flight. Right now, we are 4 minutes and 30 seconds since our on-time liftoff, now traveling at 5,000 miles per hour. This single Merlin vacuum engine can provide over 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of space, doing its job to take our crew to the International Space Station today.
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
More good news from Mission Control.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
So with that Bermuda call out, we actually know that the ground station transmitting this flight data back to us is coming from Bermuda.
The crew is currently pulling a little more than 1 G as the second stage engine continues to propel their flight. Continuing to hear good calls to the crew, now 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the flight, traveling at 6,400 miles per hour. Again, we will continue to see the second stage fire for about 3 more minutes. Shortly after second stage engine cutoff, we will see it separate from Dragon, which will continue its journey.
Now, at this point in the flight, we are just about 15 seconds away from stage 1 entry burn start. At this point, the center engine on Falcon 9 will be lit for just about 10 seconds to help us slow the vehicle down as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. That's not the only thing helping us on re-entry, though. The first stage sees high drag on re-entry, which scrubs roughly 70% of the velocity by the time the landing burn begins, which you just had great views of on the left-hand side of your screen. Florida Space Coast beginning to come into view in the background. All while Crew 7, of course, on the right-hand side of your screen, lit up by that MVAC engine, continues on its way to orbit.
We are just about 7 minutes now after liftoff of the 4 astronauts. They are looking good. They are pretty much safely in orbit. And what we're watching right now here from the Kennedy Space Center live is the Falcon 9 rocket booster coming back down for the first time here to the Kennedy Space Center. So there is a landing zone that SpaceX uses not far from us. It's actually over at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, where SpaceX typically, when they launch a rocket without astronauts, they'll bring it back down if they have enough fuel. And that is happening as we speak. Haven't felt a sonic boom yet, but you may, if you're awake with us. Touching down, look at this, not far from where we are. And there it is. Wow.
Has successfully landed back at landing zone 1 in Florida.
So we were waiting for sonic boom out here, and when we didn't hear it, we thought it wasn't going to happen because the rocket touched down just to my left, like I said, over at the Space Force Station. But then it came a few seconds later, right, Jeff? I think it caught both of us by surprise. Sounded like a really loud firecracker. SpaceX does it yet again. Not only did they get the 4 astronauts up to space, but they brought back the rocket down to use it yet again. The capsule has been reused several times already going to the space station. So this is a reused capsule, and now this is going to be a reused booster. It's very, very rare that SpaceX ends up scrubbing a launch because of hardware. In other words, the rocket or the capsule, sometimes it's weather, but it is usually never happening out here to where SpaceX decides that they want to push their launch back because of either a last-minute issue or an issue that they're working on. So last night that happened. It turned out really not to be an issue. It just turned out, as we said, NASA needed a little bit more time to make sure that their systems were working as they expected and anticipated, to make sure that the valves were closing in that life support system, like I said. And then tonight there was a sensor issue. But remember, there's hundreds, maybe thousands of sensors on board, all of this hardware on board, not just the rocket, but the capsule. Things that Mission Control, NASA here at the Kennedy Space Center, is watching every second. Most of these sensors work fine all of the time. Sometimes, if the sensors need to shut down the systems immediately, they do, and they will call for an abort immediately or cause an abort immediately. Sometimes the sensors, in this case, it sounds like it was a fueling sensor, are monitoring the rate of fuel. Not just how quickly, but how much, if it's cold enough. Remember, it's super cold fluid. They have to chill down the engines. All of this has to happen in time as we count down for launch and right on time. And that sensor was showing something wrong. We don't know exactly what it was, but NASA obviously cleared it. There are sensors and there are redundant sensors. In other words, there are backups to those sensors. So NASA was able to work through this and realize that the sensor issue, turns out, was not a sensor issue. So we launched right on time. I guess the second day we launched right on time at 3:27. All 4 astronauts are in space right now. That rocket booster landed back here right next to the Kennedy Space Center successfully, as SpaceX has done recently. And then just about 24 hours from now, a little under that, the astronauts will arrive at the space station with our single NASA astronaut